Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing today? Are you ready for some new drama? First story is just shocking. It's about OP's father, who decided to move his new family into his ex-wife's house. The problem is that his ex-wife still lives there. Listen to the end of the story, guys, to find out what I think of the situation. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My mother suffered a severe stroke 15 years ago. Thankfully, she's still here, but suffers from limited speech, cognitive impairment, dementia, and limited mobility. After a few bad apples, home health nurses, I resigned from my job and moved back home to help my father take care of my mother full-time by ourselves. 10 years ago. 5 years later, my father confessed that it was taking a toll on him and filed for divorce. I was beyond upset about it, as so were my siblings. But I had to accept that everyone isn't built to accept such lifestyles, and as much as I wanted to be upset about it, I knew it wouldn't change the outcome. They divorced, but he never moved out. He was very much still helping me care for my mother. It was a hard thing to accept once he started dating this woman named Marjorie 3 years ago. She's a nice lady, but I refuse to accept her. I know it's wrong and I'm working on it, but that's just my feelings. He also slacked up on helping me take care of my mother. My sister recently went through a divorce, so she and her kids are back, and she's been coming over and helping me with our mother. A year ago, my father and Marjorie got married, but he's never fully moved in with her. Some nights he's here, and some nights he's at her place. One morning, she shows up to the house with her 16-year-old and 14-year-old in bags. I'm caught off guard because he's accepted thus far to not have her here. I ask what she was doing here. She looked lost until my father came behind me, trying to invite them in. I closed the door in their faces. He tells me I'm being disrespectful to his wife, that this is his home too, and he's been respectful enough to not have her here, but his hands were tied. What did I expect him to do? I told him to go to her place, but that she wasn't welcomed here, not in my mother's house. She inherited this home from my grandparents. He has no claim to the home, nor is his name on the deed. He states that her home has mold or something in it, and she needs a place to stay. I tell him to check them into a hotel, but they weren't coming in here. We had a full-fledged argument about it. He eventually left. Then I received a call from my aunts and uncles stating that my mother would have wanted him happy. Maybe so, but not living with his wife under her roof with her. I changed the locks and told him he's no longer welcomed here. Wow, that's shocking, guys. So OP's father's wife wants to move into OP's mother's house, who has suffered from a stroke from 15 years ago? Talk about disrespectful. He has no business moving his new wife and family into his previous wife's home, especially when she is still there and possibly would be aware of it. His behavior is beyond selfish and cruel. I also don't understand how the new wife agrees with it and finds it normal to move in with her husband's ex-wife. OP is doing well for standing her ground and not allowing this to happen. Let's see what the community thinks. Talea says, not the a-hole. Make sure all the legal paperwork is ironclad because he sees that house as his. Make sure he no longer has any power of attorney whatsoever, no capacity to put your mother in a facility, and make sure there's no tenancy issues. Edit. Make sure your siblings are on board, or not able to interfere if not as well. Blixen says, not the a-hole. He divorced your mother. He is no longer her husband, and therefore absolutely has no say on what happens to her home, and no right to move his new wife and children in. That's just disrespectful and insulting. You did the right thing, OP. Your father is an a-hole. GJWTGF says, not the a-hole. I'm wondering if the plan was to move them in and eventually have your mother moved out. Your mom is lucky she has you looking out for her. I have 2 children, Emily, 30 female, and Hayes, 26 male, with my ex-wife. She left me a few months after Hayes was born and ended up getting back together with her high school ex, Sam. Sam and my ex ended up married 7 months later. Emily has always adored Sam. I, however, hate the guy. For years, he would work on getting under my skin, saying I wasn't a good enough dad to my daughter because I wasn't enough, and she considered him her dad too. He'd tell me every single time she had called him Daddy Sam or Dad Sam. When I told him he was being childish, he'd tell me in return that he knew it cut me up inside to have to share her affection as dad. He told me one day he would be walking her down the aisle, and maybe she'd even want him to do it alone, and wouldn't want me anywhere near them for that. Despite all of this, Sam was never able to come between me and Emily, and we have always been very close. Sam never cared for Hayes as much. I think Sam being gay has a large part to play in Sam not caring for him as much as he does Emily. There are times I had to restrain myself from exploding in front of the kids when Sam would taunt me. I knew he'd love a chance to get me out of my kids' lives. Last year, Sam was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. He's now in a wheelchair and has lost his mobility, and his speech has suffered greatly. Emily is getting married in a few months and wanted us both to bring her down the aisle. A week ago, she came to my house and told me she wanted to pay a special tribute to Sam, and she wanted my help to do it, both finance and planning. I told her I would not help her with that. She was upset, said Hayes refused to help her as well. She told me Sam means a lot to her, and she would have thought I would be glad that she had two amazing father figures. I told her Sam and I did not have a positive relationship, and there is no way I would ever spend my money or time doing something nice for the man. I told her he had treated me poorly over the years, and I accepted she loved him. But he was not worthy of my money or that effort in my eyes. She asked me if I would do it for her. I told her I could not. She said okay. Emily's fiancé called me up after this and said whatever petty issues between Sam and I, could I not do something for my daughter when she's going to lose one of her most special people? He said I was breaking Emily's heart because she doesn't want to be caught between us. That it's clear I am enjoying watching Sam suffer as he is, and that's proven by my actions, and I'm not being a good dad to Emily. Am I the a-hole? That's a tricky one. Is it only me who feels that OP's daughter is manipulating OP a little bit? I think it's not nice for her to make those kind of demands of her father. Well, if she doesn't know how her stepdad treated OP needs to sit her down and tell her everything. This man actively and purposely tried to turn OP's own child against him for his own benefit. This man's words and actions caused OP great harm and absolutely did impact his relationship with his daughter. So OP is definitely right to refuse his daughter's request. Let's see if the community agrees with me. Such Awareness 2960 says, not the a-hole. Ask Emily why it was okay for Sam to dismiss Hayes because he was gay, yet show her so much attention because she wasn't. Her relationship with Sam is her own. She can't expect others to forget or ignore their own mistreatment by Sam just to make her happy. She is an adult. She should know better. Fantastic Bag 4908 says, not the a-hole OP. Actions have consequences. Tell fiancé if he feels you're ruining his fiancé's big day, he can arrange for that along with his mother-in-law's help. He will back out for sure once he hears it. Also, your daughter never felt bad when your stepdad was taunting you and her brother, but now feels dejected that you're not going out of your way to help that same man. Ophidian says, not the a-hole, I think. Part of me says that a couple getting married should get a lot of leeway to celebrate the day however they like, and the family should set differences aside to make it happen. But reading this, I don't think you're being unreasonable in saying, I did not have a good relationship with this person, so I don't want to be a part of honoring them. Seems like they should be able to figure out how to do it without your involvement. So, male 39, sister, Amy, female 32, and her husband, John, male 34, are going through a divorce. Now, I'm a lawyer, and while I'm not a divorce attorney, through the years in various cases, I've come to know a bunch of pretty good divorce attorneys. So when Amy and John both contacted me asking for my contacts due to the divorce, I chose to give John my contacts because of one simple reason. Amy cheated. I'm not entirely privy to every detail of their marriage or of what happened, nor do I want to be. All I know is that John travels a lot for his job, and one day, recently, when he came home earlier than scheduled, he found my sister cheating. Needless to say, my mom, who never liked John, has convinced herself and many other family members that I'm the a-hole of a-holes for choosing John over my sister. I kind of feel bad because I used to love my sister so much, and family is important in our culture. But as someone who has been cheated on before, I just cannot see her how I used to anymore. On the other hand, the only family member who supported my choice was my dad. But the things he said about my sister made me second-guess myself. Stuff like he didn't raise a W, and a B like her deserves nothing for cheating. Edit. Some people keep asking for more information. I don't know what to say. Like I said, I don't know the specific details of why my sister cheated. But I've known John for 9 years now. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy to hurt my sister. Just that ever since the virus, he has to travel for his job a lot. And if something nefarious was going on, I'm a 20-minute drive away from my sister's place. As far as I'm concerned, I was shown pictures of my sister and another man in my sister and John's bedroom. Well, in my opinion, OP shouldn't have gotten involved, shouldn't have chosen anyone's side, and let her adult sister and John manage their own relationship. Both of these people can find their own attorney without OP's help. Let's see what the community says. Alice My Wonderland says, not the a-hole. You have your own standards and you live by them. It's not like you're disowning your sister, and I bet she can get a lawyer on her own. Welding Guy says, not the a-hole. In my opinion, cheating in a relationship is the greatest betrayal to a person, irrespective of the reason. It screws your trust center quite badly. Before cheating, you have the option to tell your spouse you are unsatisfied in the relationship and that you wish to seek satisfaction from a third party, thus allowing your spouse to stay or leave. Transparency takes courage. Be transparent. Sunflowers and Bees says, everyone sucks here. You should have given both the same or stayed out of it. You've admitted you don't know the ins and outs of their marriage, but you judged knowing a snippet of the story. Have you considered what will happen if you later find out he cheated too, or was aggressive, or 1,000 other things? Honestly, the fact he even asked his ex's sibling for a recommendation is a red flag. Yes, your sister ducked up, but do you really want to be a part of him screwing her in the divorce? Your mom and sister will likely never forgive you. Also, for the record, your dad is a disgusting misogynist. Do you think his response would have been boys will be boys if it was the ex who was caught cheating? I've 2 boys with my ex, and a boy and a girl with my wife, in that order. The boys primarily live with their mom. I want all my assets to be divided equally among all 4 of my children. I feel a duty towards all of them equally. However, my wife feels our mutual kids should get more percentage because my ex-wife has done quite nicely for herself, and the boys are set for life. Me and my wife aren't close to poor, but definitely not at the level of my ex-wife, who has always been really good with money. Neither of us pays child support to the other because although they live with her most of the time, she does make a lot more money. I have always felt guilty that, in effect, she has contributed the most to bringing up the boys, both labor and money, while I saw them a couple times a year at most. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and worked part-time for a while when the kids were about 6 and 7, then decided she didn't want to go to work anymore. In essence, all the cash of our household comes from me, so you can tell we're not exactly rich like the boys' mom. Except the house and the joint bank account for household expenses, most of the money is under my name only. I've arranged for my share to go evenly to 4 parties, and my wife's share to go to the mutual kids only. I will not receive anything if she passes first, and vice versa. My wife thinks I am converting her household labor to cash and giving it to my ex-wife, which makes no sense to me. While I value her contributions to everything, she did benefit from living without a job for so long and continues to do so. I do not mind providing for her, so it felt unfair to say I was exploiting her. And my ex-wife is not receiving any money from me whatsoever, only my sons are. My wife thinks I shouldn't leave anything to the boys because they already received emotional heirlooms from my mother, who sadly passed on before our kids were born. They do not have too much monetary value because they shouldn't be sold anyway. Extra info. Essentially, I don't see why my son and daughter should get extra. If I had sent child support to the boys' mom, I wouldn't feel so bad. My ex-wife did more for my kids with her than my wife did for our mutual kids because I was a very involved parent. I think OP's wife is a huge a-hole. OP needs to tell his wife that each of his children will get equal amounts, and that's the end of the conversation. OP's wife doesn't have the right to devalue OP's children's inheritance because she feels she is entitled to say how OP's ex spends her money. I can imagine how OP's children and OP's ex would feel if OP died and they found out he willed them less than his children with his current wife. Let's see what the community has to say on the matter. Aggressive Scale 1157 says, not the a-hole. Your children are all equally yours, different mothers are not. So you're right to want to treat them equally. Affectionate Cable 793 says, so she wants to shortchange your other kids because your ex made good financial decisions? If she wants her kids to be on equal footing with your other kids, then maybe she should do what your ex-wife did and provide for her family financially. If she doesn't want to work, then she should live with the consequences of her decision, not the a-hole. Ganothro says, not the a-hole for the dividing things up equally thing. But I will point out you're kind of being an a-hole about wife number 2 being a stay-at-home mom. It's not an easy job, and you're essentially only paying her room and board, since you're hoarding all the money that doesn't go to bills. Not cool. I was still serving in the Army when my oldest son, Carter, 23 male, was 5 to 10. Me and his mom were divorced by then, but I always made every effort to be a good dad and spend time with him while on leave. When I left the Army, I've spent every moment I could with my boy. We still have a good relationship. Now, my ex remarried pretty quick to a nice guy, Steven, which of course he did treat Carter well, and I'm not knocking that, even though we don't get along, but I'm his actual dad. Carter's getting married to his fiancée, Clark, 25 male, at the end of next month. My ex and Steven are kinda strapped for cash, and Clark's family isn't exactly wealthy, so they asked me if I could foot the bill. I agreed because of course I'd do anything for my boy. Come to find out yesterday that Carter wants both me and Steven to walk him down the aisle. That honestly really pissed me off, because I'm Carter's actual dad, and I'm paying for everything, and I've always been there for him. It hurt a lot that he'd want a step-parent to walk him down the aisle. We got into a huge fight about it this morning, and I told him that I wouldn't pay for the wedding if Steven walks him down the aisle. My ex is pissed and thinks I'm being selfish, but my dad thinks I should push harder. Am I the a-hole? Morgain 125 says, "You're the a-hole. Way to prove to Carter which father he can rely on." Steel Hockey Girl says, "You're the a-hole. It's not about you. It's about your kid, who loves both his dads, who have been there the majority of his life." Prof Plum Did It says, "You're the a-hole. Change your perspective a bit. Have you seen how many a-hole step-parent stories there are in the world? You should be thankful that son's stepdad treated your child well enough during the times he wasn't with you, that he wants both of you with him on his special day. Don't treat it like some sort of competition, or make him have to choose between two people he loves on a day that is all about celebrating love."